Hello, it's Oren Prunken, and today I want to talk to you about search versus interruption selling. Now, when I was 14 3/4, so 14 and 9 months, I was told by my mum to go get a job. Now, I suspect I was probably being naughty or not concentrating at school, and she threatened me saying, if you're not going to concentrate or you're going to be naughty at school, you need to go get a job just to keep you occupied. And probably because I wasn't doing any homework, she made me go get a job after hours, after school, and on the weekends. But in South Australia, you can't get a job until you're 14 3/4 legally. So literally waited until the day until that happened. And because I was probably mucking around and being naughty and not concentrating at school or doing any homework after hours, my mum got me in the car. I think she wrote my resume, got me in the car, and then she drove me down to our local retail shop, which was Big W, and she walked in with me. She walked to the front counter and said, I'd like to speak to this store manager. And they called the store manager down, and I remember his name's Calvin. He came down, and my mum said, I want to get my son a job. And then Calvin said, yep, no worries, come back tomorrow for an interview. So I came back the next day for an interview, and I went into the sales manager's office, and I sat down there, probably a really nervous kid, and I actually got the job thanks to Calvin. Calvin was awesome. He was a great store manager. First off, for hiring me at that young age, and then second off, he was just great. Throughout the time that he was there, he moved on, I suspect, to another store. But then I went through the training at Big W, and I was put into a role of customer service. Now, it was called customer service, but it was actually a sales role, a sales assistant. And the reason I say that is because customer service, anyway, to my mind, is once someone's made a purchase, they come back and get any service or any updates or any help with that product. This is all pre-sales, and we're actually sales assistants. So I would then want to go back to the training. So when we were in the training, we were taught, and it was drilled into us, and I'm so thankful for this because I use it all the time, that the saying, the customer is king and they are always right. It was actually drilled into us, and it was phenomenal. And I went through my time there as a sales assistant, always having that in the back of my mind. Now, I worked in department number 3, which was hardware and paint. And I learned a lot about that area around paint and paint mixing and hardware and all of this kind of stuff. But I lost all of those that knowledge and skills, and I'm pretty useless when it comes to handy person style jobs now. But anyway, at the time I knew a lot about all of that. A lot about all of that area, and I would be what would be called facing up all of the aisles to make all the stock look presentable for purchase. And then when a customer came in, I would stop and then go and help them. Now, I just want to step back. So customers at that point, they're obviously problem aware and they're obviously solution aware, otherwise they would not be coming into a store that sold hardware goods. If they didn't know they had a problem and they didn't know there was a solution, they just wouldn't be there in the first place. They're coming in knowing that there's going to be a solution for whatever they're looking for. So with that in mind, I would stop what I was doing, and then I would ask them a whole bunch of questions. And this just comes back to doing a needs analysis. They're already qualified, don't need to do any qualification because they are solution aware. So I would ask them a whole bunch of things, and usually it would just be pointing them into the right direction for the aisle of what they needed. Other times I would come back and check on them and see if they had found what they were looking for, and then I would just continue the conversation. And what would happen was I'd probably end up upselling them. Now, we weren't on commission, we were just on an hourly rate as employees, so there was no incentive for us to go and upsell anything. But there was an incentive, so no financial incentive, but the incentive for us was, and for me anyway, I can't talk on behalf of anyone else, was actually just go help these people, as I said, employed as a customer service role, even though it was a sales assistant role, and I'm serving them. I wanted to help them to make sure they got what they needed for their problem, and they were happy with what they needed. Now, when you're solution aware, there's the solution, but you don't know how you can get that better, you can get that result in a faster or more efficient way, and that's where usually the upsells would come. And I had an intimate knowledge of all the products there, and I said, well, if you've got this, you probably also need this type of thing. And then once they've got that type of thing, I said, well, have you considered this? And then followed up with another product. And usually these, not usually, all the time, these customers were over the moon. They were so happy that I was able to foresee additional problems that first product actually created for them, and then upsold them. And that's really the key to upsells, is whenever you sell a product, that product actually then creates more and subsequent problems for them. I might go into that in detail in another episode, but that's where your upsells come in, because the upsell product actually solves the problem that the original product created. For example, I'm actually just driving past the shopping centre now, and I'm coming up to a McDonald's. So when you go and buy a burger, that's the original product. When you buy a burger, you may get thirsty, right? So that's a problem. First off, you were hungry, you want a burger, so you buy a burger. Second off is, because you've eaten it, you may get thirsty. Lots of carbohydrates suck water out of the bloodstream, cause glycogen to go into the muscles. Therefore, you get thirsty, so you may need a drink. So the upsell is, would you like a drink with that? Of course you would, because you're going to get thirsty, right? So that first product creates another problem that you need a second product that could potentially go fix it. So anyway, back to my story. I would upsell these people, and they would leave really happy. Now, these people had come in searching for products, right? They were product aware, and now, they were problem aware, now they were solution aware, and then I'd come up and sell them because they'd be product aware. I'd make them product aware of what was available, and that included the original sale and then any upsells. Now, so that's search selling, right? They already are in that frame of mind going about finding out what is already available. Now, if you flip that on your head and you go to, cold outreach, it's interruption marketing. Now, I'm not just talking about cold calling or cold emailing or door-to-door cold contact or anything like that. Anything that is interrupting someone in their day that they aren't going out and originally searching for things is interruption marketing. Ads, interruption marketing. In addition to everything that I just came up with. So how do you go about selling with interruption marketing? Now, I just want to go back to search selling. Now, if you go into a Big W or a Kmart like that, they don't necessarily do what I was talking about. This is going back to late 90s, early 2000s when I was doing all of that. Now, I'm not sure what their training is, but around that anymore. But if you go into more clothing retail stores, they're really good at this. Usually they greet you and try to point you into the right direction. It's really low pressure sales, but a lot of people come along and they help you with sizes and help you with colors and help you with styles, and then they say, or have you considered, this accessory or anything like that. So retail, I find, is really, really good, and including some of those big retail stores, including Big W, like phenomenal. And I'm so glad that I got the education I did from them. But you go into other stores, like a supermarket, for example, and there's so many different items. The same thing doesn't happen, and I think they are leaving money on the table. And now I don't know what their business model is, and it's obviously working for them, but not everyone, and probably you listening to this, has that luxury. You've got a lot of products that you're selling. If you are in a smaller retail store that you run with multiple products, how can you go about doing a needs analysis for people that walk in the door looking for one thing, but also that may not be the thing they actually need, but also giving them the thing that they need or they came in and wanted, but then upselling based on that needs analysis. So how can you do that in a physical location? But also, if you've got a website, pretty much everyone's got a website. What is your website selling, and how is that helping them do that same sort of process online? Now, there's a whole bunch of tools you can use for that. You can use quizzes, you can use categorization, you can use search bars, all of these kinds of things. But how can you replicate that sales process online that just doesn't make it too hard, or just handballing them into your store and just saying good luck? Because people will just walk out if they can't find what they're looking for. Both walk out physically within a physical store, but walk out by analogy and virtually online. So how can you go about replicating that process in anything that is search selling? Someone that is problem aware and someone that is also solution aware, but not necessarily product aware. Now, if we go back to interruption marketing, as I was saying, you're going about and interrupting someone. Now, they may know that they have a problem, but most of the time they are unaware that they have a problem. They do have one, potentially, but not always. So you don't want to assume that everyone has the problem that you're trying to solve, because it's not true. But they may have it, and they may even be aware that they have a problem, but they are not going out and looking for solutions. They're not solution aware. It's just not as urgent as someone doing, coming in and doing search selling. So how do you then go about creating and replicating that same process when you're going in cold? You still need to replicate the same process and not skip any of those steps in the buying journey. So I really want you to think about how you may go about doing that. And one of the reasons why cold contact never works, and I spoke about that in the last episode, is cold contact is it overrated? And a lot of people just skip all of those initial steps of making someone problem aware and then a solution aware, and they just go to product aware and they're like, buy my thing. But it doesn't work that way. You actually have to come in at the right temperature for how you're communicating with the person that you're talking about. So if someone is, at a frozen temperature and they're unaware, you've got to speak to them in terms of language that is making them aware. And then the same thing with, someone that's only problem aware, but they're not solution aware. You need to go in and with a different tact about explaining that there are solutions for it, not your solution. That is what the solutions are out there, and then so on and so forth. So I really want you to think about the differentiation between search selling and interruption selling, and how they are different, but also how they are similar, because they are actually similar. They are just coming in the customer buying journey at different points. And I also want you to think about how it looks like both physically and virtually, depending on how you're selling, and how you can replicate both of those experiences for the customer and the prospect that are coming through. So I really want you to think about those things in whatever you're doing, and then try to implement some of those things, having a system to differentiate them between if they are searching or you're interrupting, but also how you can take them through all of those customer journey steps and buying temperatures, so that you are communicating to them at the right time and you are selling to them at the wrong time. But it always comes back to you, and I just want to remind you of coming back to actually helping customers, whether you're being rewarded and incentivized by a financial gain, which you will be because you're in business. But I just want you to think about, don't have that as your number one incentive. Your number one incentive should just be going out and helping customers get what they want and get things solved. And I remember walking away from customers and just showing them the aisle that they needed, or showing the product that the product section that they needed, or the different brands within that product section, or the specific one I thought for their needs, and then helping them with any additional products. Just them walking away being pleased with such an enjoyment for me, because I was actually able to help people, and them coming in, with things not working, and walking out with things that were working. It's just a great feeling. So you should be really just trying to help people, and money will just flow from that. So I just want you to think about that as well. So like I always say, please try all this stuff out. Let me know how you go, because I'd love to hear what your results are. And until we talk next time, I hope you have a fantastic day. The sun is out. I'm just about to head into the gym. And until we talk next time, goodbye.
Thanks for listening. And if you like what was on here and want more, please go to orenprunken.com.